Hello, welcome back. The title of this lesson is called Composite Functions. This is part 1 of 2. Now I'm excited to teach this because I get lots and lots of correspondence with students. They get really confused with composite functions. Let me break it down in the beginning and tell you that the concept is very, very simple to understand. We have to go through some background material before you kind of clicks with you. Remember, a function in general is like a black box. It's like a mathematical box. Inside that box is a mathematical calculation called a function. To the input of the box are input values. We call those x values. Those x values are fed one at a time into this box. Inside the box, the calculation happens, f of x, and the calculation, happens according to whatever the function is. And then on the output, you get the corresponding output, which is what we call f of x. And we can plot x versus f of x, and that's what we get. We get a graph of all the input functions and showing what all the output functions are. A composite function, at the biggest overview, is basically if you take two separate functions, totally different functions. We'll call one of them f of x, and we'll call one of them g of x. We have to give them different names because if we call them both f of x, we'll get confused. They're two different functions. And then what we're going to do is we're going to chain those functions together. We're going to send the input into one function. We're going to get the output. We're going to take that output. We're going to send it right back into another function over here. And then we're going to get its output. So together, those two functions operate as a team. Input comes into one function, you get an output, an intermediate output, but that output goes right into the next function and we get the final output. Composite function means we take two things and make a composite calculation, which is kind of a combination of the two. This composite function thing, we learned it in algebra and pre-calculus, but we use it extensively in calculus because very quickly the problems get much more complicated and you have to understand what a composite function is to do almost anything in calculus. So let's take it with a very, very simple example. Let's say we have a function. Let's call it g of x, because we have to have different names, f of x and g of x. We're going to say this function is equal to 2 times x. And we're going to say we have another function called f of x. And this function is x squared. So the job of this function is to take whatever I stick into this function and just square it. All it does is it squares the input. If I put a 2 in there, I get a 4. If I put a 3 in there, I get a 9. If I put a 4 in there, I get a 16, and so on. This function, the job of it is just to double the input. If I put a 2 in, I get a 4. If I put a 3 in, I get a 6. If I put a 4 in, I get an 8, because whatever I put into that g function, I just double it, right? Now, what we're going to do is link these functions together. We're going to send an input into here, get an output, and we're going to send it right back into the other function and get the final output. And that process is called a composite function. So graphically, what we're going to do is we're going to take x values, and we're going to stick them in, not just into one function, but into two functions. The first function that we're going to send them into is the g of x function. We're going to get some answer, right? Whatever the answer is, we're going to get it. But we're going to send that answer directly into another box, and in this box contains the f of x function, right? And then this is the part that usually confuses students, but shouldn't confuse you now. The output of this thing is written like this: f of g of x. You see, the way you need to read this is, order of operations. Remember order of operations? When you have nested parentheses, what do? You look at the inside parentheses first. If you have some addition going on and the innermost parentheses, you have to do it first. Then you go a little bit beyond and a little bit beyond, expanding and going through the parentheses from inside to outside. Same thing here. You have to put the value into the innermost function first. Evaluate the answer. But whatever you get out of that is what is sent into the f function, because remember, f of x, whatever's in here, gets passed to the f function. So first you evaluate g, you get an answer, and you stick it into the f function. Go from inside to outside. Graphically, you stick a number in, calculate g of x. That number gets fed into f of x, but this is how you write it. It's called a composite function. We're not going to be drawing pictures. You're going to be writing this. You need to know you work inside to outside. All right? Now, these are called, I'll just write it down, composite functions, because they're a composite of two other functions. But I think I have some better terminology for you. Actually, you need to learn how to spell composite. There's an E right there. I like to say that they are chained functions. And you can see why, because you do one, then you do the other. And by the way, you can have a composite function with more than two functions. You can take an input going into one function, it feeds into another function, feeds into a third function, maybe it even feeds into a fourth function, and you get the final answer. Those are kind of chained together. So I like to actually call them chained functions. But even a better word than chained functions would be this: nested functions. If you like this picture better, it looks more like a chain. But if you like this picture better, it looks more like a nested. Nested, like in computer programming, nested means one thing inside of another, inside of another, inside of another. They're nested inside. But you always have to go into the innermost thing first, just like order of operations, and work your way out. All right, so we have a concrete example. We have these two functions. And what I'm going to do is write them down again because I've used so much board space. I want to make sure and have it very clear here. G of x is 2x. F of x is x squared. So now let's do some real calculations and show how easy this really is. If you take an input value of x is equal to 2, I can pick any number I want. I'm going to stick a number x is equal to 2. And I'm going to stick it into g of x. So I have to evaluate g at x is equal to 2. Then I'm going to stick it in here, and then 2 times 2 is going to give me 4. But then I'm going to take the output of this guy, and I'm going to feed it directly into the function f of x. But really what you're doing is you're saying f of g of x, because what you're doing is the argument, what's going into the f function, is whatever you calculated prior to that. So it's going to be f of g of 2, because that's the number I use. So I got a 4 here, so I'm evaluating f of g of 2, which means I'm evaluating the function at the number 4. I'm taking this and I'm sticking it right into this function, and that is equal to 16. Why? Because when I take this and stick it in here, 4 times 4 is 16. All right, let's do another one. What if I say x is equal to 3? Well, I have to go into g first, evaluate it at 3. I'm going to double it, so 3 plus 3, or 3 times 2, is 6. I'm going to take this, and then I have to feed it into the next function. So f of g of 3, right? Because I take whatever I got in the output and I stick it in here, means it's f of whatever I calculated before. And then 6 goes right into here. 6 times 6 is 36. So you would say f of g of 3 is 36. F of g of 2 is 16. Now, we've done it with numbers. We can stick numbers in here and get numbers all day long. But what if we keep it a little bit more general? What if we just feed a general value of x in? We're not going to say x is equal to 1 or x is equal to 2 or x is equal to -3. We're just going to keep it general. Because remember, a function can take any value of x in that's in its domain. So let's just keep it general and say we'll feed a value of x in. We're going to, again, go and feed it into the g function. But in this case, we're putting a generic thing in. So we're going to make it g of x because that's what we're sticking in, right? And what is that going to be? Well, we stick this in here, and we're going to get 2x out. Whatever goes in gets multiplied by 2, so the answer to g of x is 2x. We're going to take this, and we're going to feed it in here. F of g of x is going to be f of whatever I got here, 2x. And whenever I put it in here, what am I going to get? I'm going to get 2x quantity squared, because whatever I put in to the f function is what is squared. This whole thing is here, so the whole thing is squared. So kind of a summary, you can see it very clearly with numbers what we're doing by chaining these functions together. Students sometimes get a little bit more confused whenever we just keep it as variables, but what we're basically saying is that, in conclusion, I could say so, ... right? F of g of x is called a composite function of the g function evaluated first, then the f function. And what we get from that by doing it and running it through there is we get 2x quantity squared. Or you can write it and say that f of g of x is equal to, we have something squared, we can apply the exponent here and get 4x squared. We just apply the exponent to both things, 4x squared. So this is called a composite function. Notice that what we're saying is that we have two functions. One of them is g of x, one of them is f of x. When we combine them together in this way, so that we first evaluate the g function, then evaluate the f function, the resulting function is not the g function, and the resulting function is not the x function. It's kind of like a baby function. That's like a daughter or a son product of the original two functions, right? 4x squared is kind of like this and kind of like this, but it really has characteristics of both. And so this is called a composite function. So if something on your test said, hey, you have a g function and an f function, tell me what f of g of x is, all you have to do is take this guy, stick it into here, and this is the general thing that you would get back. You can see that it's nested in the way that we write it here. You go inside to outside, or you can think of it as a chain, however you like to think about it. Now what we need to do is solve some problems, because everybody can kind of get the general idea of it, but until we do a few problems, it's going to be a little bit fuzzy. So now let's turn our attention and let's redefine the two functions we have. So no longer are we talking about these two functions. Now we're going to change the functions and make them a little bit different than these so we can get a little practice. So I give this to you, given f of x is 3x minus 5. G of x is the square root of x. All right, let's take a look. Let's do a part A here. What would f of g of 4 be equal to? Remember, you can think of it as nested or chained, however you want to think of it, but ultimately you got to go on the inside first and do this first. So this is what I recommend that you do. Look at the innermost parentheses and say, well, first I have to figure out what g of 4 is equal to. I have a definition of g right here, so it's going to be the square root of whatever is here, plugging into this location. So g of 4 is going to be equal to 2. That's what that's equal to. And then directly, kind of like the next part of the process, is you're going to go and say, well, then I have to take this and plug it into the f function. So f of g of 4 is f of whatever I calculated in the previous answer, which is this thing, which is 2. So I now have to take that 2 and plug it into the f function, which means it's going to be 3 times 2 minus 5, because I'm just sticking this value exactly where the x is. So 3 times 2 is 6 minus 5, which is equal to 1. So what you have figured out is that f of g of 4 is equal to 1. This is the final answer. So you're asked to calculate what this composite function is. Literally all you have to do is look at the innermost thing, calculate that first, take the answer, run it through the other function, which is the slightly most outermost function, and calculate the answer. You wouldn't believe the number of students that I get with this confusion on this topic, because it looks really complicated, double parentheses, different functions, it just looks so hard. But if you just look in the inside, work your way out, it's all going to be the same thing. All right, so now what we want to do is calculate. I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to rewrite the function. So f of x is 3x minus 5. G of x is the square root of x. So we're going to do a function or a calculation that's very similar right here. Instead of f of g of 4, let's do g of f of 4. Now a lot of students get confused because you look at these two things, f of g of 4, g of f of 4, and you think, oh, well, it's going to be the same exact thing. It's going to be, what did I get here? 1. It's going to be 1, right? And a lot of times I think students think this because when you think about multiplication, 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, same thing. 2 plus 3 is 5. 3 plus 2 is 5. Same thing. So it seems that in math, things often happen in reverse order, no problem. But for composite functions, it's not the case. You cannot just reverse the order of things and get the same answer. Let's see why. We have to look at the innermost parentheses first. So we have to calculate f of 4 first. F is this function. So it's going to be 3 times the 4 minus the 5, right? So f of 4 is going to be equal, this is 12, minus 5. So f of 4 is going to be equal to 7, okay? And then whatever I get at the output of this function, I got to run it through the outermost function, which is g. So then you say g of f of 4 is going to be equal to whatever I got for this, which means g of 7. Stick it in there, right? And what is that? I stick a 7 into the g function, that's the square root of 7. And that's the answer, square root of 7. So you get g of f of 4 is equal to the square root of 7. And I know that you can see that this answer is completely and totally different than this one. So in general, f of g of x is not equal to g of f of x. You see how this thing looks so complicated? Even when I write it down, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so complicated. But now that we've done a couple, and you can see what I'm talking about, all it's saying is that if I make a composite function where the innermost is g and the outermost is f, and I make another composite function where the innermost is f done first, and then going into g, and you do those calculations, you're not going to get the same thing. I'm going to write down here in general. It turns out there's actually a very important exception to this, and we're going to get to that very soon. It's called an inverse function. When I craft a very specially created function called an inverse function, then it turns out that these can actually be equal. But in general, for two random functions I just pull off the shelf, I just pull this one from over here, this one over here randomly, then the composite functions, when you flip them around, are not going to be the same thing. All right, so we've done a couple of these with numbers. Now I want to do just a little bit to wrap it up with variables. So let's rewrite these functions again. The f of x function was 3x minus 5. The g of x function was the square root of x. Now what I want to calculate next, for part C, you could say, is f of g of x. You might say, didn't we just do that? Well, no, we calculated f of g of the number 4. Then we calculated g of f of the number 4. Now we're changing it so we're not just putting a number in, we're just going to leave it general and say it could be anything. We're going to call it x. So how do you do that? Well, you first have to say, well, I put the value into g and I'm going to get whatever I get out of g. What am I going to get out of g? I'm going to get the square root of x. Whatever I put in here, I'm going to get the square root of x. So what you're going to have here is f of the square root of x, because that's what g of x is equal to. You take this and you have to pass that into the f function. So then you have to put it into here. 3 times the square root of x minus 5. I take whatever is in here and I stick it into the f function. Then what I get is f of g of x is equal to 3 times the square root of x minus 5. This is what you would circle on your paper. F of g of x is 3 times the square root of x minus 5. Now, the next part of the problem, the D part, is we want to flip this order around. G of f of x. Here we did g first, then plug it into x. Here we're going to do f first, then plug it into g. What do you think we're going to get? You think we're going to get the same exact thing? No, you're not, because in general, when you do the order of the composite backwards, it's going to be a different answer. And so that's what we're going to see here. If we look at the innermost function, it's just f of x. We stick an f in, stick an x in, we get f of x out. So what we have to do is pass whatever this is into the g function. So it's going to be g of this, 3x minus 5, because the f of x function is equal to this. Then we have to take whatever's here and stick it into the g function, which is just the square root of that. So what we're going to get is g of f of x is equal to the square root of 3x minus 5. You see here, we take this entire thing, and that goes into the g function, which means it's a square root of that whole thing. So this is the answer. So f of g of x is 3 times the square root of x minus 5, and g of f of x is 3 times x minus 5, and then the radical around the whole thing. Now I know that you think this kind of looks sort of like this, but because the radical is in a different location, you agree with me that these are going to give different answers. And that's exactly why we got the different answers when we just stuck to numbers there. So here, we introduced the very important concept of a composite function. I know it's hard to see why we care about composite functions in the beginning. We have to crawl before we can walk. The truth is they're important because they feed into what an inverse function is very soon, and inverse functions feed into logarithms, and logarithms feed into other things. So we're kind of like building the foundation. We're down here at the bottom building the foundation. Understand composite functions, make sure you can solve all of these problems. Follow me on to the next lesson. We're going to get some more practice with composite functions before moving on to the concept of an inverse function. And as I said before, in general, when you flip the order of the composite here, f of g of x in general is not equal to g of f of x in general, but the special case exception to that is when we introduce the concept of an inverse function later. That's a very special function where the order of the composite actually doesn't matter. So we're going to save that for later, and you're going to see how important inverse functions are in math. So solve these, follow me on to the next lesson, get more practice with composite functions right now.